All right, it is 11 a.m. and we're excited to get started. Our Fulton County Arts and Culture Public Art Manager, Tisha Smith, is going to start us off with a brief introduction into how this fits into Fulton County Arts and Culture's program, and then we'll go right into our presentations. Good morning, Tish.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Um, as Kathleen said, that we are here today to go over the Public Art Futures Lab residency, and I wanted to thank you guys for your interest. It is a pleasure to be in conversation with artists and creative practitioners who are exploring new frontiers in artistic practices and public engagement. As Kathleen mentioned, my name is Tisha Smith. I serve as the Public Art Manager for Fulton County Arts and Culture. And in this role, I lead the county's Public Art Division, overseeing planning, commissioning, curation, and stewardship of artwork across Fulton County's public buildings, civic spaces, libraries, parks, and community sites. The division works with intersections of artists, communities, architectures, and identifies identities of people we serve, while advancing equitable access to creative experience across the county. The future art, the Public Art Futures Lab was created in response to a growing shift in contemporary practices. We developed it in 2022. Alex Frankholm, who's the former public art manager, thought it would be very valuable to create a space where technology, digital media, immersive environments, and experimental research are reshaping, is a space that can be reshaped, and how artists can create and how audiences can experience. Traditional public art programs have often focused on permanent physical installations. The Futures Lab was established to provide space, resources, and institutional support for artists working beyond those traditional boundaries. Artists exploring virtual reality, digital fabrication, interactive media, performance technology, sound-based environments, and other emergent forms that refine or redefine public art can be created there. I'm sorry. At the core of um, the Future Lab represents Fulton County's commitment to innovation, experimentation, and future-facing creative practices, ensuring that public art evolves alongside new tools, new platforms, and new ways of connecting with communities. For artists, the Future Lab offers time, funding, equipment access, professional development, and a platform to test ambitious ideas that may not fit traditional residency models. For public art, the lab serves as a research and development space where artists can prototype new approaches to civic engagement, expand how art lives in public spaces, and explore how technology can deepen participation, storytelling, and cultural exchange. It is both a residency and a laboratory, supporting creative risk takers while maintaining a strong commitment to public impact. Our public art residency at the Futures Lab is generously funded by MARTA Artbound and Central Art Progress. MARTA Artbound is the arts and culture initiative of Atlanta's Transit Authority, commissioning and supporting public artworks across transit stations and corridors throughout Fulton County, activating shared public spaces and connecting art with daily movement across the region. Central Atlanta Progress is a leading downtown development and advocacy organization dedicated to strengthening Atlanta's urban core through investment in cultural programming, creative placemaking, and community engagement. Through their support, the Future Lab residency is able to provide meaningful financial backing and resources for artists to fully realize ambitious, forward-thinking projects. Alex Francombe and Nina are on the line, as well as Representative from MARTA Artbound, and they're going to dive deeper into what they do and what they offer. But as potential candidates for the 2026 residency, you are invited into a program designed to challenge conventions, expand creative possibilities, and contribute to the evolving future of public art here in Fulton County. We are excited to learn more about your practices, your ideas, and how you envision art operating in the intersection of technology, community, and public spaces. At this time, I am pleased to introduce Kathleen Brown. She's the Arts Education Coordinator and Principal Contact for the Futures Lab and the Artist in Residency. Kathleen will guide you through a deeper dive into the lab's function, available resources, and what you can expect in the residency experience. I want to thank you guys for taking your time and taking interest in the art in residency, and I look forward to the conversations ahead. Thank you so much, Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Tish. So, as Tish mentioned, we'll be going through the different residency partners. I'll give a brief presentation on the Futures Lab. We'll move to Atlanta Downtown. There'll be a brief time for Q&A after their presentation. We'll move to MARTA Artbound, and there'll be some time for Q&A there. And then we'll wrap up if anyone has larger questions about the full program. But I'm going to share my screen and just give a brief little intro to the Futures Lab. If I can. Yes. So I see that some people on the call are already members of our Public Art Features Lab community. These visuals just are some brief highlights of the things that we do both in our space in downtown Atlanta. We're currently hosted by Underground Atlanta and also out in the community. So we are expanding and democratizing access to tech and art. As Tish said, we were created by former public art manager Alex Francombe, who still supports the Futures Lab now as the director of art and activation for Atlanta Downtown. And these are additional partners. We have educational partners, we have community partners, and this year we have new laboratory partners, we'll call them. Freeside Atlanta is a makerspace that we will give our artists in residence access to during their time to build more physical elements of projects. They also have a lot of tech equipment, so we're excited to share that. And then Lightscape Lighting and Equipment, there is an educational access that residents will have to learn more about lighting design, projection, those public art activations that really need to get bigger in terms of projection and lighting. So these are just some brief by the numbers. Last year we did 154 events and workshops with a total attendee number of 17,000, over 17,000 people. Um, and that included our time with the Atlanta Art Fair, which we will again be a cultural partner this year. Okay, getting into what a resident can expect. So part of the Futures Lab is access to our equipment loan library. And this is equipment that was built into the lab when it first started, but it also includes tools and software that residents who've come along the way have needed for their projects, and they stay with the lab. So these are all kind of tested, very useful elements. On your screen, you'll see we have different types of projectors. We have motion tracking technology, some Insta360 cameras, as well as drones. And then we have some sensors. So if you're like tracking movement and turning that into sound or visual elements, those are all things that we have at the lab. There is a stipend that the partners provide. There is also equipment potential with the lab. If there are specific technology you need for your project that the Futures Lab can then retain, we're open to discussing that throughout your residency. And that's kind of a project by project basis. So, utilizing our host space as an artist in residence, you're encouraged to have a community engagement exhibition or workshop, at least one. But we have found that some residents really like the opportunity to bring the public into their work. And a lot of times it informs the work and builds on it to have that community input there. So, this is just a couple, including Sam Richardson, last year's artist in residence who worked with Risograph and did digital animations with the Atlanta Downtown project. Uh, Yeah, if anyone has questions about that later, about what type of events you can have in our space, I'm happy to answer that later. So these are some photos from last year's Artist in Residence with Atlanta Downtown and MARTA Artbound. Um, the projects kind of are encouraged to evolve, and the bus project for MARTA Artbound was actually not a direct part of the residency, but it fed into Maite's project because MARTA Artbound was working with her, and it just so happened with them, and it just so happened that this project was able to expand. So I'll let them talk about that. This is another example of a public art project that was pretty close to the pitch of the artist in residence, Shelley Bohm. Shelley proposed doing a projection motion tracking based experience where community members would share their wisdom, and then this public art installation would generate randomized bits of that community info in a really cool way, almost like you're talking to a fortune teller. And that was conceived in Shelley's original proposal, and then it kind of grew from there. This is showcasing our relationship with Orange Barrel Media and their Ike Smart City platforms. We have the ability to share visuals on these kiosks that you may have seen throughout Atlanta. They're just short, like 10-second clips, but it's a really cool way to get your work out into the public's eye. And Atlanta Downtown also has a separate partnership with Orange Barrel Media, where there's opportunities for these larger billboards, like you can see in the far left corner, um, for certain types of work to be displayed on those bigger billboards around Atlanta. This is just some showcasing from Maite's project that they did with a collaboration with Lost in the Letters. And that was a project that Marta had come to the residency with. So this year's brief is a little different. It's more experimental and open to ideas. And this was an example of an Atlanta downtown resident last year. So the specific parts of the residency where we were involved were helping Sam get her risograph printing equipment off the ground so she could create these contact sheets, which then became animations as a add-on to the project that did not necessarily involve the Futures Lab, but continued on for the Atlanta downtown connection was that Sam's work was featured in sight at the goat farm last year. So that's what that photo is from below. Artist-led workshops. We have the space. We're open to both hosting, which is offering free space for proposed ideas, and also we hire artist facilitators if we are looking for a specific type of workshop to mount in our space. And then another aspect, which is less tied to the residents, but is definitely open to it, is that we are closely partnered with the Fulton County Library System. So the Public Art Futures Lab, we do workshops within the library system, bringing virtual reality, digital tools, early animation, just anything you can really think of that touches on that broad arts and tech space. And this is just like a brief little shout out to even if you aren't selected for these artists in residence specific projects, because there are only three and it's a very competitive uh, call. We get to know artists. We read these proposals and Layla was actually a finalist in both of last year's projects. And as a result of just getting to know Layla's project, uh, Tisha and I were able to find another project where her proposal fit in. So that was an example of how, even if you aren't chosen for this, there are other opportunities beyond. So we really are excited to read all the proposals. As an aspect of becoming a resident, we encourage you to utilize the built-in media we have in Fulton County. So FGTV will do a feature podcast episode on each resident. They also come in and feature us when we do different projects. So the Wisdom of Atlanta, the public art activation, it got its own story. We love the internal media team that we have here, so it's exciting. Yep, and that concludes the Public Art Futures Lab specific part of the presentation. And I want to move into Atlanta Downtown's portion, and then maybe after both of them give their presentations, it probably will answer questions that you have at this point. So I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'm going to pass along to Nina Dolgen from Atlanta Downtown. And I
Hey,
think,
yeah, let me see if I can share. Mm,
and Nina is program manager of art and activation at Atlanta Downtown. And she works extremely closely with our residents, um, curating events and fine-tuning all
yeah,
the little things that need to happen when it's going to be a public art activation. All right, I'm going to
yeah.
go on mute. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you. All right. Let me share. 1 second. Okay. All right. You can see my
Yeah.
presentation. Great. Hi, I'm Nina Dolgen, Program Manager of Atlanta Downtown's Art and Activation Program. If you're not familiar, Atlanta Downtown is a partnership of Central Atlanta Progress and the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District, which are two nonprofits tasked with promoting the economic vitality and development of downtown Atlanta. Our Art and Activation Program was born out of the development of the Atlanta Arts and Entertainment District by the Atlanta City Council in 2017. So this ordinance grants us the authority to authorize permits for any new commercial signage within the district. We work with media companies and property owners who want to install this signage and ensure it meets certain criteria. And then once the signs are active, we're able to curate and display artwork on the signs themselves. And in between advertisements, we receive a portion of the revenue from the commercial advertisements sold. So the purple line that you see is the Atlanta Arts and Entertainment District, and then the black line border is our downtown program area. So that's how we define downtown and the work that we do within it. So then the revenue that we receive from the signs fund our art and activation program. So from that funding, we've been able to commission public art, produce cultural programming to activate our downtown spaces. And that looks like murals, art installations, free yoga classes, community events, artwork on the digital signs themselves, creative placemaking and infrastructure projects, and sponsoring artist residencies like this one. Our intention for this residency is to integrate artists into our pre-existing programs and foster longstanding relationships with our residents. So Kathleen mentioned that, Shelley Bohm and Sam Richardson that we worked with last year, we've worked with them beyond their projects, just with their residency. So speaking of the pre-existing programs, the first opportunity that we have is an augmented reality project with our partner Orange Barrel Media, who Kathleen mentioned. So Orange Brown Media is installing a new sign in South Downtown on Mitchell Street. Part of the requirement for that new signage is to have an artistic element along with the sign. So this usually could look like a mural on the building or creative lighting installation along with the sign. But for this one, they are developing a kind of like augmented reality library. So they're still figuring out which platform they're using, but we um, are partnering with them to curate artists to create augmented reality artworks that will live in a phone app, but be anchored at this sign that's in South Downtown. So that is the augmented reality one. So we're looking for artists who already are working with augmented reality, who are pretty familiar with it, but also you don't have to be incredibly well versed. You can use this time in the lab to kind of hone your skills too. The second opportunity is with our program called the Map Rover. So Kathleen showed Samantha's piece at site at the goat farm, which is what this photo is from. I also would like to show a video that kind of tells more about the program, but essentially we took a simple box trailer and we've transformed it into a mobile projection unit. So there's a workstation inside that's all, protected, weather protected. And at the top, you can kind of see there's this hydraulic mast that is adjustable and has a metal box with the projector in it at the top. So let me stop sharing that and I'll share a video. Okay.
The Map Rover is really about bringing art and light to places you wouldn't expect it. At its heart, it's about activating space in new ways, sparking curiosity, and making art feel alive in the everyday fabric of downtown Atlanta.
I hope that when people see this thing that we built, they know that we did it because we care about our environment, we care about downtown, and we want people to come enjoy it, especially at night. When people are looking at the rover, I want them to go from what is this thing to wow, I love this thing.
It's this portable, nimble trailer that lets us turn blank walls into big, glowing canvases.
A projector is not a new technology, but we've created a vehicle with all the tools an artist would need to present their work in exactly the way they dreamt it.
I hope that we can showcase the amazing talent of Atlanta's artist community and showcase that on a huge scale.
All right. Yeah, that's a general overview of the Map Rover. I'll also show one more video just while we're talking. It's right here. There it is. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay. All right. So this is a project that we did with Shelley Boehm, who did that Wisdom of Atlanta project. This was an additional project that we commissioned from her. That's on the center, the former CNN Center, now called the Center. We showed this for 3 nights. There was a huge basketball game. There was a Brandy and Monica concert at State Farm Arena. There was, I think, another concert or sports game during that time. And so our intention was that we're leveraging the organic foot traffic that's already there, and we're giving the public something that they may not expect. So she created this fun little animation that was displayed on the building. And that's really, what we're trying to do. There are some instances where we will, um, create a whole event around a project, and but there are some circumstances where we just want to leverage the audience that's already here, and just give them a fun, kind of unexpected moment of joy. So that is all I have. I'm happy to take questions. And that's it. I guess back to you, Kathleen, unless there's questions.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you have questions specifically for Atlanta Downtown. And again, it was the augmented reality focused project as well as the projection based project.
I had a question. What kind of videos do you typically have projected on the by the map rover? I saw a few examples, like it had the patterns and the the artist installation. I think that was projected
Yeah,
by the rover. Are there any other
yeah.
examples?
So, I mean, it really could be any kind of digital artwork. It could be a pre-existing, just like an MP4 video that just runs on a loop, or it could be, we're very interested also in interactive artwork. So something that you develop that's kind of running live, that using something like a motion tracking camera or any other technology, so that the audience can influence the artwork that's being projected. We also are interested in, even if it was just like a static photography exhibition on a building, with rotating photos, or um, any other kind of like site specific animation where you're creating an animation directly for that surface, that can interact with the architecture of the building. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
We have a question in the chat. Nadia says, hello, do you have specified approved locations for the rover, or are we limited to choose locations ourselves and communicate with them for permission? Thanks.
I'd say both. We are currently developing our list of locations. We have to get approval from the property owner to project onto their building. So we're working on kind of building a short list of locations that we can offer to our residents. Um, and yeah, this is a new program that we just developed late last year in the fall. So we're still kind of figuring out what buildings work, but we have a couple that we know will work. And but we're always open to suggestions from the artist if you see something that you think could be interesting. And we can also communicate like the limitations of, it is a vehicle, so there are certain places that it can't go. But ideally, if we can park it and it's the right distance away from a surface, we can project on there. And it does need to be generally in the boundaries of downtown. It doesn't have to be in that purple district, but in the general um, area of downtown. There are a couple of exceptions. We did participate in site at the goat farm last year, and we also used the map rover at the Atlanta Art Fair. So some of those larger, like Atlanta art community wide events that we want to participate in, there may be opportunities there as well.
Nina, would you say for proposals, it's better to be more general, or would you want someone to propose something that's for a specific site?
I would say a little more general. I think we're interested in um, your qualifications, your experience in general, the kind of things that you're interested in, um, your knowledge or experience of downtown, and how your project could best enhance our spaces. I think if you do have a specific idea, that's totally fine. I think when Shelley submitted her application, she did have that Wisdom of Atlanta idea pretty fleshed out. And I think that was helpful. But if you just want to include, information about yourself and not a specific project, that it's not going to hurt you.
I have a question about for the site projections. Um,
Mhm.
you mentioned interactivity. Would there be internet available through the um, rover or
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, our the rover, as much as possible, we try to have it be a self-contained thing. So it has its own power, it has a battery that is backed up by a generator, but it also could plug into an external power source if needed. Yeah, it has internet access, a variety of software programs, pretty strong computer system that we just ordered late last year. And we can also provide, kind of a list of what tools are included with the rover.
there are a couple questions in the chat. Um, Ruslan, maybe I misunderstood. Is there a group for Future Lab? I wasn't able to find how to join, or if you meant something else. Would you mind unmuting and explaining? I don't think I understand what it's in reference to, Ruslan. Um, I'll answer that question on the chat. There's another question. What type of devices are
Mhm.
available for the AR project?
Yeah, from our side, I think we're going to work with Orange Braille Media to identify a AR platform, like a pre-existing app that we can have an account for to work with. So I don't have too many details about that just yet. I know, Kathleen, from your side, are there tools in the lab that they would be able to play with for AR?
Yeah, so we have two iPhones that are used a lot of times for kind of like testing out what would be like mobile AR. We don't have specific software right now because we would work with whatever Atlanta Downtown was working with for AR.
Mhm.
Hi, is there a specific time that the Art Rover projects works best in? Like, does it work better at night than it does during the day? As well as, are there like any limits that we should be aware of, whether there's like a time restraint, like it can't run
Mhm.
after a certain amount of time, or things that might get in the way of it? And
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, go ahead. You have more?
let's go with those first. I want to word my questions correctly. I love this grant and I
Mhm.
love the things it produces, so I don't want to misword anything. Those were two that
Yeah, no problem.
right words for.
Yeah, so with the map rover, yes, it would have to be after sunset. So our the best time to use it would be September through March, because the sun sets pretty early around by like 6 o'clock. And we usually don't have programming that goes like past 11 or midnight. So we don't really have late night programming unless we were partnering with an event that does. But yeah, generally we would be doing evening. It would be all outdoors, outdoor production.
And I saw Alex answered a question that was in the chat. Is the rover limited to just one projector? Alex, did you want to jump
Hmm.
in, or I'll just read your answer?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. There is just one projector mounted to the rover, but obviously, I mean, anything you can connect into a PC, you can put on the rover. So whether it's interactive, extra projectors, it's all possible. Um,
Hmm.
it just depends on what we want to do and what resources we have available.
Yeah.
Wait, just to be clear, the rover is adaptable. It's not like well, that's really it. You can like
Well,
add on other things to it.
there's one projector mounted on the rover that's on that mast. But let's say we wanted to have an installation that was like a one night event where we wanted to project onto multiple sides of a building or just go wider or something like that. We could install other projectors and then have them linked to the same PC, whether it's through like Bluetooth or just HDMI cables or something like that. So there are options for expanding it, but there's, just always logistical difficulties depending on the location or, what the circumstances is. But yeah, we're always open to renting or borrowing additional projectors, but we own one high lumen projector.
The grant for the rover, if I remember correctly, it's proposed from the spring till about September. Is that it? Is there any intentions or desires for the proposals to correspond with FIFA, or is the interest more so to highlight things in Atlanta currently?
I would say to highlight things. I wouldn't do anything World Cup specific. I think we're open to it, but given the timing, I don't. Our The idea with the residency is that you're developing kind of like a pilot or a demo of your project and not expected to have a fully finished project. And we would then give you the opportunity to, you're essentially creating a proposal or demo that we can then fund the rest of the project and present that later. So yeah, you wouldn't be expected to have to do something publicly within your or on a large scale, but it's an option if you work quickly. And then again with the times, I'm not sure if that was an old version of the the dates of the residency, but we haven't established like this time period is for augmented reality and this time period is for the map rover. We will work with whoever schedules. If we're interested in working with you, we can adjust accordingly. Uh, we're also open to, if we'd like to have one augmented reality artist and one projection mapping artist, but if we have two really strong projection mapping candidates, we're also open to having two artists working on the map rover versus one of each. So it's very flexible.
What about someone that does both?
Yeah. Who's that?
Me.
I'm not seeing
I think it's
who's talking.
It's
Ivan.
Ivan.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, I don't, if you're for this, where we do need, with Orange Borough Media, it is an augmented reality project. If you wanted to propose a projection mapping project alongside it, or if you wanted to kind of say, I'm throwing my hat in the ring for either opportunity, and you want to provide your experience and qualifications in both of those areas, go for it.
Is there like a um, themes that are, you know, ideally explored? Are there um, initiatives that maybe, you know, are currently, in the works that might, kind of influence the decision towards like a project?
Um, I would say not necessarily. I think we're really open to all sorts of themes and content. I think for the augmented reality project, it's not necessary, but if you are interested in the history of South Downtown and want to incorporate that into your artwork, we're open to that. But it's not, you could also, you know, develop something completely different. Um, yeah, we're all there is we're interested in telling um aspects of like incorporating downtown history into artwork. Um, but if that's really not like your focus or interest, I wouldn't propose it, just to appease us.
Right.
I think we want to see what you want to do. And I think the strongest applications come from people proposing projects that they're really passionate about versus trying to like guess what we're wanting to see.
I also had a question about proposing projects in general. Do
Mhm.
we, on our application, do we propose um, a project targeted toward one specific residency, or will we be considered for all the different ones with one application?
So the way we have it set up is that you should submit multiple applications if you're proposing for, say, this is just for AR, or this is just for projection, or this is just for MARTA Artbound. Does that make sense? Like you're allowed to create multiple applications, but you want to choose from the check marks on the application which one you're specifically applying for with each submittal.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
With the
Any
applic
other? Oh, go ahead.
um, with the applications, is there more importance with our ability to like demonstrate we can execute a projection mapping or augmented reality based project, like versus like the curation of an idea? Like I'm an artist and a curator, and although I love those technologies and understand them, it's not always like it takes time to execute a projection mapping thing, I feel like, respectfully. So like is there more emphasis on being able to demonstrate that versus the idea by chance?
Let's see. I would say we're definitely interested in working with artists who are producing the work versus a curate. It's not a curatorial residency. Um, and in terms of your experience with a particular technology like projection mapping, um, we would be open to, let's say, you're a digital artist, you don't necessarily know about projecting the work onto a building. That's okay because we have technicians who can help you. And the whole point of the residency is that it's a lab. You're supposed to tinker and learn and enhance your skills. So we would want you to have access to the software that you can learn and develop the um, some more knowledge around projection mapping. But we've worked with artists who, they are a filmmaker. They don't know how to project it onto the building, but we can take their file and um, mask it to the building. So I I wouldn't say you have to have even executed a projection mapping project before, but to just show that you have a general understanding of the technology or like of what that is.
Super. I love the technology. I just have a very old laptop, so it doesn't always
Oh
connect
yeah.
with different current projectors. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's exactly what we're trying to provide here is the access to um better computers and software that you can play with.
Quick
I see
question.
some, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Are you finished with your
Oh,
question?
good question. Is there any opportunities? I know you guys are trying to do with the map, or is there any opportunities around downtown where smaller projects, like smaller projection projects, maybe events, stuff like that, if we can provide our own equipment and do the whole setup? Is there anything around that you guys wanted to execute in the future?
Um, Possibly. I mean, yeah, it's possible. It just would depend on, yeah, what that event is. Are you talking about you know of an event, or you're saying an event that already exists that you would want to uh do a smaller projection?
Yeah, just incorporate an event you guys have on the calendar. And if it's like something I can just kind of create around that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think if we have opportunities like that, we would uh either, post on a newsletter or on Instagram that we have an opportunity like that. I think, Kathleen, do you have all of the emails for everyone who's registered that we could share those kind of opportunities? I don't have anything off the top of my head, but we're always interested in utilizing our network if of people who are able to do work like that. But
Yeah,
there's not, yeah, related to this residency that we don't have that.
correct. Yeah, that wouldn't be something you would apply for with this residency, but I'll put my email in the chat and we have an ongoing kind of open call for you to pitch ideas like that
Hmm.
related to the Futures Lab. So I'd be
Awesome.
happy if you reached out. And then there are some more questions in the chat, but they're more targeted to like the residency as a whole. So if there are no more Atlanta downtown specific questions, I'd like to move on to the MARTA Artbound, but I want to, any more Atlanta downtown specific?
I just had one. For the AR, you prefer to have somebody who with experience in AR. Would experience in game development in general be sufficient for something like that, where the AR part is new, but dealing with 3D graphics and stuff, assets?
I would say probably, yeah, I think that those skills could transfer.
Mm,
So yeah, I would say that that would work.
okay.
Thank you so much, Nina and
Thank
Alex.
you.
Let's move to MARTA Artbound, and today we have Tracy Crosby representing MARTA Artbound. Tracy is the program administrator. Tracy, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Apologies. I don't know why it's so dark in here, but I'm usually on Teams, which is a little bit brighter. Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy Crosby. I'm the program manager here at MARTA Artbound. We're the public art arm for MARTA, which encompasses maintenance of existing artworks, legacy artworks that were installed in the stations when they were constructed. We also do new artworks, both permanent and temporary, such as if you've seen the new mosaic at Airport Station as you're leaving the station going into the airport, there's a big mosaic there. That's one of our pieces. We do murals on the walls of our stations, all sorts of different things, including the Public Art Futures Lab. We do also performing arts within the stations. We have theater performances, musicians, all sorts of different things. So that's basically MARTA Artbound. And as Kathleen mentioned, this residency, we've gone a little bit more open with it. And in all transparency, Catherine Durga, who is the director for MARTA Artbound, wrote this brief. So I'm kind of jumping in on her behalf. She's not able to be here. So I'll stumble through it a little bit, but again, it's a lot more open than what we've done in past. We kind of want to approach it from a research standpoint about how to better incorporate art into the everyday experience of a transit rider versus, here's this one big thing that we're doing. It says in the brief, and I'll read from the brief a little bit to give you a little bit better of an idea, but transit is very transitional. People are running through the space. They're trying to catch their train. They're trying to catch their bus. They don't have a lot of time to linger. Sometimes they've got more time to linger. You've missed your bus and now you have to wait however long. So it's trying to think of ways to incorporate art into that kind of unexpected space. And again, we're very open to what that might be. And I don't think, this is where I'm a little uncertain on the brief. I don't think that we expect a finished project necessarily at the end of the residency. It's more about bringing ideas, like what could we do? And then the practicality behind those ideas. Like, this is the idea and this is how it would be implemented versus just, I have a great idea, but I have no idea how to accomplish it. So I'll read a little bit from the brief just to give you a better idea. The residency asks a central question: can creativity and shared culture be treated as essential parts of public infrastructure rather than as decoration added afterwards? Because I do sometimes feel like public art can feel that way. The what you call in the public art word pop art is just sort of put there and it doesn't have any real connection to the space. We're really looking for something that feels a part of the space and something that you as a patron can interact with and experience on multiple different levels. Let's see. Artists are invited to explore how art and culture can live naturally within public spaces and support everyday civic life. In addition to conceptual and research-driven work, projects may involve light, projection, sound, digital, or media-based work, modular elements, and other experimental approaches. Artists should focus not only on what the project looks like, but on how it works, how do people interact with it, respond to it within a complex public system. Projects should be intentionally designed to invite the public's interaction, participation, or creative response in ways that are appropriate for active transit environments. And obviously, I know people's experience with transit might vary, so we are very knowledgeable when it comes to that. So we can answer any questions about, a little bit more specifically about what that might mean if you're not a regular transit. And that's all I have. I'll open up for questions.
Awesome, thank you. So are there any questions for how a MARTA Artbound residency will work?
So the projects can be anywhere relating to MARTA and the public transit, like on buses or on the trains or in the stations.
Correct, yes.
Oh,
There will be limitations, of course, because there are a lot of limitations around transit and rules that we have to follow, FTA rules and all sorts of things like that. But yes, that is correct.
I have a question. Hi, my name is Melanie. So regarding the residency submission for MARTA, I have a question regarding what exactly are you looking for? Are you guys looking for the art itself in the application or the idea concept?
I think we're looking more so we're leaning on the idea concept. But if you have an idea that can be brought more to fruition, then that's something we're open to as well. But at this stage, I think we're really looking more for ideas.
Okay, sounds great. And then my second question might be for public art and Tracy as well, like just both at the same time. Is there any way that the MARTA residency could possibly also translate to like the projection mapping art, like both working together?
Well, I think that the specific equipment Atlanta Downtown has that would be separate from this.
Okay.
However, if you proposed an idea that had projection onto like an exterior of a MARTA station, that would definitely be something that falls into this kind of proposal idea. And then MARTA and Futures Lab would work together to find equipment and technicians to do that sort of projection. Even better if you already have experience mounting some large scale projections.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much.
And then there was a question in the chat from Ruslan. Says, will there be access to take photos inside the stations or anything else? So I guess that's an access can't photo ability.
Yes, that's not a problem. Again, there's limitations surrounding what you can and can't do there, but yes, we do have access.
What about the all the screens that are in the bus stops?
Yeah, those are typically there's two different kinds. There's informational screens that have schedules and things like that. And then there's more advertising screens and no, we would not have access to those. Those screens are an outside company, and if we were to use them, we would have to pay. We will eventually. I'm not sure that we would in time for this residency, but we will eventually have screens in the stations that are kind of specific to Artbound programming. They're just not there with them yet.
And also for the last residency MARTA Artbound did, they created physical signage, sandwich board kind of placards with QR codes and visuals about the residency prompt. So if you had an idea where you wanted like messaging to go out in stations, there are ways to do that beyond the digital signage. And then through Public Art Futures Lab relationship with Orange Barrel Media, we also have ability to put visuals on those street level kiosk digital signage. just to support a project. That wouldn't be like the full project. Okay, I think that that is all the MARTA
Wait,
art. Go ahead.
sorry, I did have questions. What, sorry, sorry, I got lost. Are we allowed to collaborate with the other proposals and candidates? Like if we do something with MARTA Artbound and it relates to maybe another candidate's project, are we allowed to collaborate? That's a very separate question, but what subjects are appropriate or dialogues are MARTA interested in? And are there specific stations y'all are interested in highlighting? Like, are there more frequently used stations outside of like Five Points and possibly like the West End station, I assume, because I'm a West End and H.E. Holmes kind of guy?
Yes, there are stations that we kind of focus on due to frequency, but we also like and historically within the Public Art Futures Lab have kind of focused on the modes of transit that don't get as much art. You know, we've been kind of specific to buses and things like that. We're certainly not doing that this round, but we are also love to put art where people don't get to see art very often. So that said, we're open to anywhere on the transit system. Uh, and there's obviously limitations around content because it's public art. But yeah, within the transit system itself, we're open to wherever. That would be an ongoing kind of discussion.
And then to your question about collaboration, the three residencies do have overlap. So at certain weeks in between the residency crossover, you will actually be sharing laboratory space with the previous resident. And we don't direct you to collaborate, but we encourage the artists to have conversations if their work is, touching on the same sort of aspects. Um, as far as like creating a project that is, that would all be up to you to decide. It wouldn't be specifically sanctioned by MARTA Artbound or Atlanta Downtown for y'all to cross-pollinate. Okay. Any other MARTA Artbound specific questions?
Based on prior MARTA experiences, is there a like good way to communicate to the people like that the experience is happening, or is there like anything to consider with that with the proposal?
We typically communicate via our social media pages, which Artbound has a specific one, but we also try to get that messaging out on the MARTA Transit page, as well as the Facebook page. We do press releases and stuff like that. So, and like Kathleen mentioned, we have kind of like boards that we can put up in the stations to announce things. So yeah, that's typically.
All right. Thank you, Tracy, for presenting the MARTA Artbound side of the residency. I'm going to tackle some of these questions in the chat because they're more for the structure of the residency and the work that goes on in the lab. So there was a question about, are there required times that someone should be expected to be at the lab? What we ask is that you commit to be in the Futures Lab at least once a week. That just kind of keeps you in the flow of, creating the work, staying on target. If you can be there more, that's great. The artists have full access to the space, to create, and can also bring in collaborators that they are working with into the space. And then there was a question about, oh yeah, whether there was a set amount of hours. We would work with you. So as long as you have the space in your schedule to commit to a project like this, we're open to working around travel or working schedules. And we would talk through that in probably the finalist interviews is when we would touch on those kind of structural things. And then the question related to, are the residencies eligible for college students? It kind of goes back to your time commitment and ability to focus on the project during the 18 weeks. So if you have a school schedule and you have these like base knowledge of skills already, and you know you're going to be able to tackle this, I think we'd be open to working around your school schedule. I don't know if either Atlanta Downtown or MARTA Artbound has any response to that separate from me. I think that college students, as long as they're over 18, would probably be fine. I'm gonna say yeah, probably. And then which software packages are on the lab's computer? That is a great prompt for me to tell you to go to the Futures Lab frequently asked questions, and I'll post that link in the chat. There's an equipment rundown with software of what's on our computers. But Creative Cloud, we have Blender, we have like the free versions of Touch Designer and Mad Mapper, Max MSP free stuff. Yeah, we're always growing it based on what the residents are using. Okay, any other questions related to this kind of like broader, what's it going to be like at the Futures Lab?
Does the Futures Lab is like the downtown area for that, does that reach Auburn?
Auburn, yes, I think that that's included in the downtown area. Am I correct on that,
Perfect.
Nina? Sweet Auburn.
Do the question was, is Sweet Auburn considered downtown?
Mhm.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
like where Four Keeps Books in that area is. Like where
Yes.
Mangoes is. That's what I'm thinking.
Yep,
Mangoes is.
exactly.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Mhm.
There is a question in the chat. Will we have programmers available to help us if needed? I have experience with coding, but at the beginning level. We don't provide that sort of teaching help. It's kind of on you to self-direct, and we can certainly use our connections to, if you have a specific question with a specific need, we can reach out to some of our educational partners and see if anyone's interested. But it would be on you to find a collaborator if it was vital for the creation of the project. Please jump in if you have questions related to that I didn't answer, Nadia. Okay, any other questions?
With regards to the workshops that are provided, I went to one all a long time ago. What has been like the scale of them in the last few years?
For workshops that the residents are doing or workshops that we're programming just separately as the lab?
The residents, like, what's the scale of what is asked to be offered to the public, I guess? Like, is it like a multi-series thing? Like, if like when people take like drawing classes, is it a thing where like they come multiple times, or is it like a 1 day workshop by chance?
So the requirement for the residents is just that you have one community engagement. That could look like an open studio where you're inviting people just to see the work you've been completing, or it could be a workshop. Um, it's kind of open to you. We don't have a threshold on audience. Um, like it's been as small as 15 people, and then it's been as large as, 200 people coming to the Wisdom of Atlanta art activation. Does that make sense?
That perfectly answers my question. Thank you so much.
I actually also had a question, and this was regarding just like background. So, given that this is something that's like synthesizing both art and tech, if you are a creative who has an interest and a passion in tech, but more so background airs on the art side of things, though you like seek proficiency to learn more about the tech components of your idea, like I guess my question is, to what extent is um background factored in to the evaluation by way of, oh, like, can this person um execute on this idea? Because I think on where I'm coming from is that um for example, I'm somebody who is more of a creative than I am a technologist, though I like still am passionate about learning technology.
So I think being able to describe how your work, you see it fitting into the tech side, it is
Hmm.
a self-directed residency. So any like education you can give yourself now to even work on spec work related to how tech would fit in. It's definitely a tech and art residency, so we do want to see that you've done something beyond the traditional art methods.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes. And then there was a question, do we need to include workshop concept in application? No, not unless community engagement is a part of the whole proposal that you're, tying in. But we discuss once artists are selected, what sort of workshop or community event is going to satisfy that requirement. So that doesn't need to be a part of your application unless it's like central to your project itself. Okay. Any other questions? And if there are no more questions, I am put my email in the chat. And that is kathleen.brown@fultoncountyga.gov. And if we're wrapped up with in-person questions, I will be available by email to answer application-specific questions. I can't answer questions related to your concepts or your proposals, but I'm more than happy to answer questions related to submitting. So thank you so much to our residency partners, Atlanta Downtown and MARTA Artbound. We literally wouldn't be able to do this without their support, both financially and just creatively, and being an advocate for exciting public art in the area. And thank you to all of you who joined today, and we will be sharing the recorded version of this on our website. It'll be available on the Futures Lab program information page. I'll also leave that in the chat. And thank you so much to Julie Lawson, our ASL interpreter from Fulton County. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much to everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for this informative session. I was so glad to see that they had a Zoom session for info.
Awesome. I'm glad you were here. All right. Thank you, Julie. I'm going to log off. Bye. Thanks.